Hello, everybody. Welcome to Grid Live Wrap-Up NASCAR at Texas Motor Speedway, our post-race show. I'm Ben Schneider alongside Adam Lemerise and Kobe Lambeth from the Podium Finish. As always, we invite you to share your comments and questions with us in the chat room, and a special thank you to our subscribers on Patreon. Now let's discuss the Texas race today in NASCAR. Kobe, lead us off and tell us about today's event.
Texas Motor Speedway hosted its annual 500-mile playoff race. Kyle Larson had a lot to worry about early last week with his point situation at the Charlotte Roval. Now he's moving on to the championship Fort Phoenix after dominating all day long in Texas. For Joey Logano, the last 500-mile race of the year has definitely put his championship hopes in jeopardy. Joey Logano's engine blew at less than 40 laps ago, bringing out a caution. But Logano does have history on his side. He's won at Kansas and Martinsville, especially at Martinsville, that famous finish when he pushed Martin Truex Jr. out of the way and muscle past him for the run. So here's the first question of the evening, guys. Is Joey Logano now a bigger threat, knowing he's not afraid to push someone out of the way?
Yeah, I believe so. He is. I believe that he ain't afraid to push anybody out of the way. But Kansas could happen, but for me, I think it'll mostly happen at Martinsville. He wants to get in the championship really badly for Team Penske, and I believe he'll do whatever it takes to get there. Overall, yeah, sliced bread. Joey Logano is a threat out there on the track.
Yeah, well, anyone saying Joey Logano's championship hopes are over, I guess they must have forgotten the win and you're in part of the playoff system. Obviously, Joey Logano, his championship hopes are still very much alive going to two tracks that he's won at before. And Kobe, like you said, Martinsville in particular, a track where he had that incredibly famous finish with Martin Truex Jr., maybe controversial in the eyes of some, but ultimately allowed him to put himself in a position to make the championship four and go on to win the entire championship. So, when I think about Joey Logano, I know he's an aggressive driver. I know he's going to do whatever it takes. And, this almost certainly puts him in a must-win situation when you look forward to the remaining two races before the championship four. So he's definitely not out of it yet, and he's certainly somebody that you can't count out.
Joey Logano is definitely not afraid to use the bumper. Like I said, the incident at Martinsville, Martin Truex Jr. It's happened before. It's even happened at Kansas when he made contact with Matt Kenseth several years ago. And then we all know the payback that came later on at Martinsville when Matt Kenseth ruined Joey Logano's season right there. So definitely all those drivers have to be worried about Joey Logano knocking them out of the way. If he doesn't win next weekend at Kansas, watch out for Martinsville, because if he's running second on the white flag coming through 3 and 4, expect the other driver ahead of him to go spinning, because Joey Logano will do whatever it takes to win. And that really what this elimination style championship format NASCAR does. Like, what are you willing to do to win? We even saw Ryan Newman in the earlier years of this playoff format put Kyle Larson in the wall to get an extra point to advance to the championship four at Homestead. So this current playoff system, it rewards aggression, and we all know many of those drivers would be willing to even wreck their own mother to have a shot at winning the championship. And today's disappointing finish for the 22 team, Logano finished 30th, and we saw that big crash early in stage one that took out several cars when Bubba Wallace got sideways. Alex Bowman and others piled in behind them, and surprisingly, not a single playoff driver with an issue in that accident. Another driver, or in this case, two drivers from Joe Gibbs Racing, their day fell apart towards the end. Denny Hamlin, a cut tire following contact with Ryan Blaney, that tire let go and brought out a caution. Then Hamlin got more damage by hitting a spinning Chris Buescher, but luckily Hamlin was able to salvage an 11th place finish, so calling his number right there. And Martin Truex Jr. made contact with Daniel Suarez and slammed the turn 4 wall, ended up retiring from the race. 25th place today for the number 19 Toyota. Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, leaving Texas in the top 4 in points, with Kyle Larson punches his ticket early to the championship four. Are any of those three currently in the top 4? Do you think it's safe enough for them to run a conservative strategy at Kansas and potentially bank on making it to Phoenix on points?
Well, we know one of them is going to make it on points. Obviously, there's 3 races, up to 3 different drivers can win and punch for a ticket that way. So somebody's got to get in on points. It's going to happen. But if you take a look at the standings, obviously, Blaney's only 17 up on the cut line. Everybody else is even closer than that. So, just do simple math. You get 10 points for a stage win. You sweep the stages. If you're below the cut line, that's 20 points right there. And now all of a sudden you're ahead of Blaney, who's, the highest ranked driver that isn't already locked in. So I think absolutely not. You can't run a conservative strategy at Kansas and expect to be able to bank your way on points. It might happen. You might be fortunate enough if you aren't the winner at Kansas or Martinsville to be able to get there. One driver's gonna fall into that spot. It's just how the system works. But in terms of being able to bank on that, the only way to bank on making the championship 4 going into Martinsville is to go out and win Kansas. And I'm sure that's going to be on the minds of all 7 drivers remaining in the playoffs who aren't already locked in, and the 32 others who, are still out there racing for pride and racing for their teams and sponsors as well, who aren't in the playoffs. It's going to be very competitive. And I don't think you can just sit back and bank on the points you banked up over the season.
Yeah, I have to completely agree with you, Ben. It's hard to have a conservative strategy in Kansas. Kyle Larson doesn't have anything to worry about after what happened today. Because he can sit out Texas and Martinsville. Kansas and Martinsville, going to Phoenix, knowing that he is guaranteed a spot in the championship 4. But looking at the playoff standings, Chase Elliott, Brad Keselowski, Martin Truex Jr., and especially Joey Logano are going to have to have some really good strategy leaving Kansas, because we all know Martinsville is a short track. You could call that a wild card here in the round of 8, and it's also on Halloween, so it could get someone could have a trick or someone could have a treat, in Martinsville. But overall, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the sunflower state of Kansas next Sunday.
Yeah, and I completely agree with everything both of you guys said. I think running a conservative strategy with this current format is definitely not a good idea. I think all of those 7 remaining drivers who are sitting behind, I think they need to go all out, try to get as many stage points as you can, because somebody's gonna make it to Phoenix on points, but you can't bank on points, and you haven't enough good luck to get there. So all those drivers need to make sure they're hitting on all cylinders, limiting mistakes, and maybe they'll have a shot to go win for the championship. I also want to bring up something we talked about yesterday on Grid Live pre-race, talking about Ryan Blaney, how he's had some inconsistent runs up and down. You never know what you're gonna get. Some weekends we'll see a strong performance from Ryan Blaney like we saw today. I believe he had the 3rd most points scored from this race today at Texas, which is really good for him, a good start to the round of 8. And we wondered if Ryan Blaney would make the championship 4 for the very first time in his career. And you see right there the point standings, 17 points to the good right now. Going into Kansas, Ryan Blaney has to feel good, but you certainly cannot get comfortable because you don't score stage points in stage 1 and 2 in Kansas, and everybody else behind you does, then you can definitely be in a more uncomfortable position. And it's going to be interesting to see how Ryan Blaney performs these next couple of weeks. Because if he does extremely well, he'll definitely will most likely get a shot to go race for a championship with Team Penske. And next week, 1 more mile and a half left on the schedule at Kansas. Once again, Kyle Larson and Hendrick Motorsports looking like the big favorites. However, Kansas Speedway is very treacherous, not a cakewalk, likely to have cooler track conditions. Been this late in the year out there. Is this the last race where the teams have the most control over their destiny? Because we know Martinsville can be very chaotic.
Yeah, I believe Kansas will be Kansas is always treacherous, like you said, Kobe. It's a 1.5 mile track, and Kyle Larson, to me, you could say he is the favorite right now after winning Texas, after winning at Texas Motor Speedway. But it's going to be interesting to see how the track, what the weather's like out there in Kansas. Could we see hot weather, cool weather? what's the pit strategy going to be like? But overall, the race in Kansas is going to be very, very interesting. And then after that, we go to the paperclip in Martinsville, Virginia. I believe it'll be a calm race in Kansas, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, to be honest, Adam, I don't know that even Kansas is a track where you're in control of your own destiny. We saw it with Joey Logano and Matt Kenseth in 2015, and that really took Kenseth out of the championship, and then he obviously got Logano back in Martinsville. That's the clip that they play over and over again every time we go there, even though they decided to suspend Joey Logano, or suspend Matt Kenseth for a couple races for the payback move he put on Joey Logano. That was a move that they deemed suspension worthy. They promote the heck out of it every time we go to that track. So seems like a little bit of mixed messaging there from NASCAR, but they've been hyping up this Chase Elliott, Kevin Harvick rivalry as well. That could be something that we see come back, even though on paper it should be over, considering Harvick's out of the playoffs. So I just think in this current playoff era, there's so much that has to go your way. Even a track like Kansas, where the fastest car should theoretically have an easier time winning than Martinsville, which is just by its nature a little bit more chaotic. There's so many different variables, especially now with stage racing and things like that. I think it's going to be very difficult to maintain complete control of your own destiny in any playoff race. Maybe a little bit easier at Kansas than Martinsville, but certainly not by much.
Yeah, we could definitely see some surprises next weekend at Kansas. And who would have expected all of the action we saw at Texas today? That big one that got ignited when Bubba Wallace spun around, and then it seemed like we were just logging laps for a while. And after that, that last little stretch of the race, it was just caution after caution after caution. And playoff drivers Denny Hamlin, Truex Jr. running into issues. And I'm surprised Kyle Busch finished as well as he did today, considering how animated he was on the radio, especially listening to him laughing in his "this is fine" type of laugh. So Kyle Busch definitely not having a lot of fun out there. A lot of unexpected things happened to at Texas. And speaking of Kevin Harvick and Chase Elliott, the little rivalry that spilled over last week at the Roval, Jeff Gluck from The Athletic provided a quote that Kevin Harvick gave to the media on Chase Elliott, with Harvick saying, I quote, "I'm still baffled that he's worried about me. I had no chance to win a championship. Looks like he should figure out how to take the same car and run as fast as the 5." So Kevin Harvick definitely adding a little fuel to the fire there. We like to hope that the rivalry between Harvick and Chase Elliott is over, but based on what he's saying, maybe it might not be over. And I don't expect anything to happen at Kansas next week, but Martinsville, if you haven't bought tickets to that race, I guarantee you need to buy it right now. Make sure you pack that place, make it a sellout, because it's going to be such a highly anticipated cutoff race. And now Adam and Ben, yesterday we picked the 4 we thought would advance to the championship 4. Almost everybody picked Kyle Larson for pick a winner. A record 8 people correctly guessed him to win at Texas. And we assume both of you have Kyle Larson in your championship 4, but who else do you have in your predicted championship 4 after Texas?
Yeah, well, it's a little bit of a bummer to be the only person on the grid program not to pick Kyle Larson for the win today. I had to do something to try to close the gap to Adam and Joe. Last time I went with the unanimous pick was Jack Miller at United States and MotoGP, and we all got that wrong. So I figured, try something a little bit different tonight, and it still didn't work out for me. So I guess my chances for pick a winner having the most there are practically over at this point. But in terms of a championship 4, obviously, it was hard to bet against Kyle Larson, even though he had a little bit of a scare in the round of 12. I think most people did have him in the championship 4. Now he's locked in. Again, it's so difficult to predict, given all the variables and everything. But Kyle Busch has been very strong. Historically, in the championship 4, he's made more of them than he hasn't. Denny Hamlin as well. You got to think after a season that he's had, he's got to be a favorite to join Kyle Larson as well. He and Larson have been the 2 strongest championship protagonists all year. And, I guess I'll give my wild card pick. Maybe Joey Logano steals one either Kansas or Martinsville in the next couple of weeks, despite the points gap that he currently finds himself in after the engine failure today. He'll win his way in and join the 2 Gibbs guys and Kyle Larson in the championship 4.
I've been doing a lot of thinking when I saw this question come up, and it's hard. It's very hard. But for me, my championship 4 goes as follows: Kyle Larson, and then I'm going to say his teammate, Chase Elliott. He's had a very strong year. He's won a couple races. And don't forget, he did win the season finale last year in Phoenix. So I say Chase Elliott is my number 2. In the last 2, I'm going to give Joe Gibbs Racing. Number 3, I'm going to go out and say Denny Hamlin. I think my colleagues here at GRIDnet can say the beginning of the year, Denny Hamlin, I don't think he had a chance. In the playoffs, he's been strong, really strong. Kansas and Martinsville, he could lock himself in by winning one of those races. I wouldn't be surprised if he wins at Martinsville. It's his home track. Everyone wants to win that historic grandfather clock every year. And my 4th driver, yeah, I'm going to go say Rowdy. Kyle Busch somehow finds a way to be in the championship 4. I have to completely agree with you, Ben. Kyle Busch has always been up there year after year after year. So my 4 are Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch.
Yes, and we definitely remind all of our viewers in the chat room, please share with us, who do you think is going to be joining Kyle Larson in the Championship 4? Next, Ben, you have a quick update on the World Rally Championship, Rally de Catalunya.
That's right, Kobe. The World Rally Championship will be decided in the last round of the season. While Terry Newville won the rally, Elfyn Evans took second. Sebastian Ogier dropped to 4th place. There's a 17-point difference between Ogier and Evans for the championship right now. And Rally Monza will be from November 19th through the 21st. Now I'll hand it back over to you for an update on the grid ranking.
Yeah, the grid ranking week 30 is finalized, and Kyle Larson has moved up to 3rd place. Denny Hamlin dropped to 15th. The only other NASCAR Cup Series racer in the top 15 World Rally Championship saw Sebastian Ogier lose some ground this weekend to Shane Van Gisbergen from Supercars, which is going to be restarting their season in just a couple of weeks' time. And Ben, the first question goes to you. Considering how competitive the NASCAR Cup Series is, with Larson on his way to the Championship 4 at Phoenix, when it was announced that he was going to be driving the number 5 Chevrolet at Hendrick Motorsports, do you expect that he would be this dominant in his first season with the organization?
I certainly expected him to win a couple of races. I know he had that bit of a winless streak when he was with Ganassi, but I think we've always, with no disrespect to Chip Ganassi Racing and Chip's organization, which we know is has a lot of prestige there in IndyCar and endurance racing and all sorts of things. On the NASCAR side of things, they've competed for championships here and there, but Hendrick, I think, has been a step above historically. So, you saw it as a little bit of an upgrade to go from Ganassi to Hendrick after what happened in the not really the off season, but I guess the COVID break in 2020 with Larson getting into some trouble on iRacing for the racial slur that he used. Now that he had that time off, got through the reinstatement program, he has come back as strong as ever. And, like I said, I expected him to win probably at least 2 or 3 races, make the playoffs solidly, maybe have a shot at a championship 4. I've got to say, I know Kyle Larson's a great driver, but, this dominance has taken it to a whole nother level for me. I think it's going to be a really, really big shame if he doesn't win the championship this year, because he certainly has been the most dominant. He's won the most races. We could be talking about another 10-win season. Those are numbers that, you haven't seen really anywhere. I'm thinking maybe Kyle Busch, I think, had 8. Denny Hamlin had 8, some years, Gibbs. But, thinking back to Hendrick specifically, those are the types of numbers that you saw Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson putting up back in the day. And now Kyle Larson is right there doing the exact same thing in his first season with the team, which is even more incredible. So it has been a great year for Kyle Larson, certainly exceeded my expectations, which were already probably 2 or 3 wins. So, anytime you can exceed the expectations of winning a few races in a given year, you're doing something pretty special. So for Kyle Larson, I think it's been a great season, and I hope he wins the championship, because he certainly, I think, is the most deserving with the season he's had.
I totally agree with you. I think Kyle Larson by far is the most deserving driver to win this championship. He's having such a special, historic season and by dominating the competition like he is. And if he gets down to Phoenix and loses his championship, I don't know what we do. Maybe we rethink the playoff format because it just would not make sense to have such a great season and then to lose it all because of a blown engine. I guess the next few weeks we'll be playing a game like, how does Kyle Larson lose the NASCAR Cup Series championship at Phoenix? Because if it's some crazy fluke like that, that'll definitely be a tough pill to swallow. And he also exceeded my expectations as well. I thought maybe like 2 or 3 wins, just like you did, but I never expected him to go out there and get 8 wins in his first season with Hendrick Motorsports. I know when he was at Ganassi, there were a lot of questions about Kyle Larson being able to close out races and put together a complete race, but he's definitely checked that box right now. And him and the number 5 team are doing amazing things. And if Larson wins the championship this year, I'm wondering, could we potentially see him and Cliff Daniels go on a run? But I know it's really hard to do in the current championship system, but it's certainly possible. And I'll pose a question to all the viewers out there. If Kyle Larson, Cliff Daniels, and the number 5 team keep hitting on all cylinders, could they potentially down the road be the next Jimmy Johnson and Chad Canals? That was something that crossed my mind earlier today. And the last time a NASCAR Cup driver won the grid ranking was in 2017. Martin Truex Jr. that year got 8 wins, 19 top 5s, and 26 top 10 finishes. Larson in the grid ranking has the second most wins at 8, ahead of Max Verstappen from Formula One at 7, Fabio Quartararo from MotoGP, and Lewis Hamilton from Formula One, tied with 5 wins each. And this question goes to you, Adam. Do you believe Kyle Larson will end the season with 10 wins with just several races to go, been the second driver in the grid ranking to get 10 or more?
It could happen. It truly could happen. And going back to your question, Kobe, about Kyle Larson and Cliff Daniels, if they win the championship this year, could they go on a strong run? Yeah, it's possible. And I'll go back to the previous question as well. I didn't see this coming from Kyle Larson at all. No way. No, I don't think anyone in NASCAR saw this coming after when he signed with Hendrick Motorsports in the offseason. He's had one of the strongest dominant years probably for a long time. You want to go back to when Jeff Gordon completely dominated, Jimmy Johnson. Could Kyle Larson get 10 wins? Sure. Martinsville, Kansas, could happen. Martinsville, could happen. Phoenix, it's a 1.5 mile track. He won in Texas today. What's Texas? A 1.5 mile track. So could he get to 10 wins? Absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely think Kyle Larson getting to 10 wins will be a historic feat, and it's certainly possible remaining in the season. And next, Adam's time for that grid one shining moment.
Thanks, Kobe. And before I send us to my colleagues, our colleague Joshua, who couldn't be with us here tonight, has shared his grid one shining moment, and that comes from the British Superbike Championship, in which Terry McKenzie won the championship over there today. And it was 25 years ago that his father won the exact same championship. So pretty cool to see a father and son win the same championship 25 years apart. So now I'll throw it over to you, Ben. What's your grid one shining moment from this motorsports weekend?
Well, I know we'll have a little bit more on this as we close the show tonight, but of course, yesterday was the 10-year anniversary of the Las Vegas tragedy that took the life of Dan Weldon. And, it was very, very touching yesterday to see so many drivers in the IndyCar series, so many fans, so many people who are involved with the sport sharing their memories and tributes to Dan and his family. Certainly wishing his wife, Susie, and his son, Sebastian Oliver, well. It's a very difficult day for me. I certainly remember where I was, watching that race the first time I ever saw a fatality live on television. I was only 12 years old. It was a very difficult day for me. And every time October 16th comes around, Dan's on our minds. I think Dan's always on our minds. The legacy he left in IndyCar and in motorsports in general is, it's simply incredible. And, it's a very sad tragedy that we have to remember here. But, it's very, it was very touching to see everybody share their memories yesterday. And, certainly speaks to the man that Dan was, not just in the race car, but outside the race car, but that so many people think so highly of him, even after his passing, and have all those memories to share. It's great to be reminded of that. So, I want to give my one shining moment in memory of Dan Weldon, and certainly wishing his family well the day after the 10-year anniversary.
Yeah, that was very special what you guys did yesterday across the motorsports industry. And for me, for my good one shining moment, I'm going to give it to Kyle Larson. Nobody saw this coming in the NASCAR Cup Series this season. Nobody. The number 5 team, the last time they were this good was back in the late 90s when Terry Labonte won, I believe it was the 1996 NASCAR Winston Cup Series championship. The number 5 team always has had very successful drivers, starting with Jeff Bodine, then Terry Labonte. Now here we are with Kyle Larson. Him and Cliff Daniels, all year have been strong up and down every race weekend. 8 wins this year, another strong run in the Texas Motor Speedway today. It's hard not to, nobody saw this coming. So for me, for my grid one shining moment, I'm going to give it to Kyle Larson, Cliff Daniels, and the entire number 5 Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet.
And I'm giving my grid one shining moment to his teammate, the driver to number 24, William Byron. Recently, William Byron just signed a multi-year contract extension with Hendrick Motorsports and the sponsorship from his college, Liberty University. And I think that's huge for William Byron because he knows he's going to have a job at a top-tier Cup Series organization for the foreseeable future. So he doesn't have to worry about trying to perform on par with Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, and all of that, because people have questioned William Byron, wondering who's the weakest link at Hendrick Motorsports, him or Alex Bowman in that 48. And William Byron wants to prove that all the hype about him when he was coming up the NASCAR ladder system is for real, and that he's going to be around racing in the Cup Series in competitive equipment for many years to come. And I thought today was one of the strongest performances I've ever seen from him so far in the NASCAR Cup Series from flag to flag. So I definitely think William Byron, we saw that confidence today, and if he can close out the season like we saw today, maybe we'll see him win a race at Kansas, Martinsville, or even the season finale at Phoenix. So William Byron's my grid one shining moment.
And as we close the show, we want to revisit the story of Dan Weldon. Yesterday we shared the memories of him, and you can click on the link for our pre-race show. We also have had some special programs, including our colleague Ben put out a very strong video called 4 for 4, Panther Racing's 4 consecutive second place finishes. Today, we share the legacy of Dan Weldon, 2005 and 2011 Indy 500 champion, 2005 IndyCar Series champion, and he also won the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. Beyond the accomplishments and wins, we'll always remember the late, great Dan Weldon.
And Dan certainly won multiple awards and trophies all across the world in his career, and many of them have since been named in his honor as well. Weldon made the top 50 Autosports top 50 drivers list to never race in Formula One. The Dan Weldon Memorial Pro-Am Karting Challenge takes place in Newcastle, Indiana every year. And since 2011, it was kind of special to see some of Weldon's closest friends, Dario Franchitti, win the Indy 500 the next year in 2012. Tony Kanaan on his 12th attempt, finally winning the 500 for himself in 2013. Both driving the Dallara DW12, which had been named in Dan Weldon's honor. Of course, Weldon spent much of the 2011 season without a ride, so he was tapped by IndyCar to help develop a new chassis, a newer, safer, updated car that they, in many ways, continue to race to this day. I know it's changed a little bit with the aero kits from year to year, but at its core, it's still the same chassis in the IndyCar series to this day. Brian Herta actually went on to win the Indy 500 again as well in 2016 with Alexander Rossi. He had merged his team with Andretti Autosport, and Rossi used the same number 98 car that Dan Weldon drove to victory 5 years earlier. He won the 2016 Indianapolis 500, the 100th running of the 500, 5 years after Weldon won the 100th anniversary race. So an interesting connection there as well. Dan was only 33 years old. He had a contract in place with Andretti to run in 2012 and beyond. And like I said in my own video, who knows what would have happened after that? We could be talking about another 4-time Indy 500 champion with him, with how strong he was at Indianapolis. And we want to send our best wishes today to his family, particularly his wife, Susie, and their 2 sons, Sebastian and Oliver. And remember their names, because both Sebastian and Oliver have taken up karting to carry on Dan's legacy. And they're already part of Andretti Autosport's junior driver development program. What were you doing at 10 years old? Oliver Weldon is already an Andretti Autosport development driver, which is very special to see. And their mother, Susie, continues to support their efforts to enjoy the sport that Dan loved and in which he had great success. And I'm willing to make a bold prediction. It's been 10 years since we lost Dan. Maybe sometime in the next 10 years, we'll see the Weldon name back on the starting grid for the Indianapolis 500 with Sebastian or Oliver, or maybe even both of them. Weldon's influence continues to be seen all over the world in motorsports, and more stories will continue to be added to his legacy, I'm sure, with Sebastian and Oliver in the years to come. For Adam, Joe, Josh, Kobe, everybody at Grid Network, I'm Ben Schneider. So long, everyone.